So this is my attempt at making seafood ramen out of leftovers from Mom's second homemade seafood broil. It comes with some imitation crab. I had to kind of dig through the leftovers. For some reason, the mixture of butter and oil congealed into a sort of solid mixture of sorts. I added some of this spice to try and make it spicy. This seafood ramen. It didn't really work too much though. I only feel a little spice at the time being. I remember within the first hours of today, I think I ate a square of one of the leftover brownies from Mom's Easter family get-together dinner. One of those leftover brownie squares that we took home out of in a plastic container. After I ate it, I ended up falling asleep on the living room couch after making a space where I could lie down on it by moving some stuff. I think for the most part it was band equipment. I activated this research technology because it was the one that I met all the requirements in order to activate. That, and by starting to plow in the latest street, I could resolve, at least temporarily, any issues I have with culture for the time being. And prevent a problem from developing within my city in Elvenar. Today I made some good progress on the styrofoam drawing I've been working on over these past days while I've been staying for the time being at Mom's place. The primary thing I've been doing is working on the vest that I've given this styrofoam drawing. I decided to go for a green plaid design, and I went about it through layering. Or at least that's what I call it. I in particular pick a shade of green and then decide to do a pattern with it. Once I complete that pattern throughout the vest, If I recall correctly, I'm feeling a little spice from this seafood ramen. If I recall correctly, I drew in the revolver around the noon/early afternoon period. Around the time I had some of the leftover Crunchyroll family pack that I had made by request at Wegmans the other day. That was around the time I drew in the revolver, and then I used a layering to start creating a somewhat complex plaid design of different shades of green. I started with essentially creating perpendicular lines. I started with vertical lines, and then I did horizontal lines throughout the vertical lines. I then used a different shade of green to put bars between two vertical lines going through all of the horizontal lines along those two vertical lines. These bars wouldn't extend the whole width between those two vertical lines. Then I picked another shade of green and ended up using it to color in squares between two vertical lines that didn't have a green bar, sort of rectangles that were created because for the horizontal lines I did two very close together, then a gap, then two more close together. And the green bars, each one would, between two green bars, would be a set of two dark green vertical lines that it would skip over. And I would continue these patterns throughout the entirety of the vest. Front, sides, with the arms I drew in, and the back, all while contending with the revolver I drew in. On the left side, this is how I tell the difference between left and right. This L means left, this means right. So on the left side of the vest, I had to contend with the revolver. What enabled me to start working on the revolver was I decided to go on a walk to Wegmans around 11 in the morning. In order to return at this point, the container deposits I could find within one side of the kitchen sink, in this case, the right side of it, the right compartment. Yeah, most of them were plastic/aluminum containers with deposits, with just some not having deposits. Primarily those that were tea. I put these deposits, and they made up most of the container deposits, put them into a white plastic garbage bag. One of the container deposits was a sparkling ice beverage I finished earlier in my room. Maybe it was around between 10 and 11 in the morning. I think I got up around 10:30 in the morning. I walked to Wegmans on a day where it was overcast and it was supposed to rain on and off. Fortunately for me, it barely rained on me at all. As I repeatedly listened to the music track, since it doesn't have lyrics, More by Future Mono, from the sort of YouTube topic, the YouTube audio library. I ended up getting 60 cents from Wegmans in the form of 2 quarters and a dime. Yeah, but I also brought with me what turned out to be 8 $1 bills. At the time, I didn't know exactly how many $1 bills I brought, but I made sure it would be enough for me to get at least a 2-pack of ultra-fine black Sharpie markers at Walgreens. And because they were on clearance and I had enough after getting what I initially wanted, I also got an individual red fine Sharpie marker and one that was purple. If I remember correctly, it came to around $6.34. I rounded that purchase up to $7 so that the cashier wouldn't have to deal with any change, and this cashier actually called out for me specifically that he could check me out since my purchases, at that point I was waiting at the front counter, the one that's closest to the primary exit and entrance to that particular Walgreens. They had their red noses out for Red Nose Day. So this rounding up of the purchase was probably meant for that. I know it's a sort of charity event, fundraiser event. I don't remember what exactly that charity slash fundraising event was for. Maybe the purpose of it was and my best recollection is that it had something to do with children. Or maybe something involving food. Either way, it's a form of charity event. Right prior to that, I got pre-approved for a credit card that I can use for at least Walgreens, since I have a rewards account. I entered in my phone number for that. It didn't give me a discount, but I got points for getting those Sharpie markers. So effectively it was no harm to me. And I could maybe use those points to one day maybe get some free Sharpie markers, or at least get a discount on them. In general, I felt pretty good throughout both the walk to and back from Wegmans, and it was, for obvious reasons, the trip back from Wegmans that I made that stop at Walgreens. Since I wouldn't necessarily want to have to carry my Walgreens purchases into Wegmans, or have to put those purchases in with the container deposits, or have to hold my Walgreens purchases in one hand while I carry the white plastic garbage bag with the container deposits in the other. I'm tasting a bit of spice here, because I think it was roughly somewhere between 40 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit at the time when I did the whole Wegmans walk. I wore a light jacket that was a medium shade of gray. I put the $1 bills into a zippable compartment. That ended up being around one of the sides of the chest area, rather than in one of my pants pockets, which was also a medium shade of gray. Didn't put them in either of the compartments on one of the sides of the pants, since those compartments didn't zip. I felt that by putting the $1 bills in the chest coat compartment, I would be not taking a risk of having the $1 bills fall out of the compartment and me losing them. And I also wore that colorful frills hat again. Oh, and since it was supposed to be a rain on and off sort of day, I didn't wear my dress shoes as I did during the previous days. Instead, I wore my rainbow tie-dye colored Crocs with a pair of Copperfit branded socks that were a combination of the color black and some dark shades of gray. When I got home around noon, I did what I like to do after a walk to Wegmans and got a kombucha from a Wegmans branded kombucha out of a cardboard box for a pack. And I think sipped at it over the course of between 1 and 2 hours. As I drew in the revolver using one of my new ultrafine Sharpie markers, and then I colored it in using shades of gray. And on the revolver, I drew on the handle part, the butt of the revolver, I drew in a bald eagle, a detail. And on the butt of that revolver, I drew in a texture that picture of an army cult that was featured on the Wikipedia page on revolvers featured. Around 6 p.m., me and Mom and I had some leftovers from the seafood broil, just as I'm having right now. And I had it with a glass of milk. Those seafood broil leftovers were pretty good. In regards to the Congregate Games sword fight. I'm currently doing pretty well. Starting that new school gave me a whole bunch of local fame that I used under the school archives tab in order to upgrade my influence in terms of both the records and the history of the various jobs. As such, I've been able to gain levels in the jobs much more quickly than I did for the first school in this new second area, the Holy Lands. And I've also been able to make them more effective. And it turns out that Grandmaster Godfrey, as a co-founder, has an assault-style co-founder skill that I don't really understand much. Apparently, you gain attack equal to your current style's defense, and defense equal to your current style's attack, which is better than nothing. Yeah, but I'm not sure if it applies only to the assault stance, or if it applies to all stances. Whether that be the attack stance, or the guard stance, or any of the 6 stances that I've discovered so far in this game. There's also the Zealous Recruiter skill, which doubles the recruiting job bonus. That results in a boost to your attack, hit, and defend, which is good for me because I noticed for the previous school, for all of my disciples, there was always a point in which their opponents would, at a certain training level, they would always have a higher attack, hit, and defense stat by thousands, and it would result in that disciple barely being able to land any hits on their opponents, while their opponent just kind of in a way hits them over and over again at times. Also, shortly after I got back from the walk to Wegmans and getting Sharpie markers at Walgreens, I prepared some Campbell's tomato soup. It was in one of their cup/glass containers. It's more vertical than horizontal. That describes a can, though it wasn't exactly a can. Out of that container, I poured the tomato soup into a real bowl, heated up in the microwave, did some mixing, and then I served that Campbell's tomato soup to my mom as a sort of, maybe at this point, lunch in bed or late brunch in bed. Since at the moment she's got a bit of a cold. But she's doing okay, and she enjoyed the tomato soup. I asked if, while preparing that tomato soup, if she wanted a Coca-Cola with it, but she declined that offer. A Coca-Cola in one of those 18 fluid ounce plastic bottles as part of one of those 6-packs with the plastic, one of those plastic ringlets.